Hello and welcome back to the MMA Bar. Today we're going to discuss the fights between Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena, the tale of both fights, and whether the first fight was indeed a fluke victory, or whether Juliana Pena was simply too good for Amanda Nunes that night. On the 30th of July 2022, we witnessed one of the best women's MMA title fights ever. The widely recognized women's MMA GOAT, Amanda Nunes, took on a tough counterpart in Juliana Pena for a second time after Pena had snatched the belt away from Amanda a few months back. Pena's victory was believed and till today is still believed to be a fluke by many. Well, Amanda's demolition of her in the rematch doesn't help matters. But first, let's take a look at the first fight between the pair and whether or not it was indeed a fluke. 7 months ago, Juliana Pena entered her title fight against former champion Amanda Nunes as a massive underdog. Nunes had reigned supreme since 2016 when she seized the women's bantamweight belt, then defended it 5 times while also taking and defending the featherweight crown along the way. Nunes had defeated some of the sport's biggest names, at times in devastating fashion. Her strikes were so concussive, they seemed to strike fear in opponents well before they were thrown. But in December, Pena, a 6.5-to-1 betting underdog, overwhelmed Nunes and earned an unfathomable upset over the former champion. Ahead of their rematch, Pena said during the pre-fight news conference, "It's frustrating. They say that she slipped on a banana peel and that's why she lost that night. And I don't think that's the case. And that's what we're doing here. We're going to run it back and do it again, and then maybe you guys will finally put some respect on my name." In 2014, Kat Zingano defeated Nunez via third-round technical knockout. The fight showed that Nunez, now 34, could be exhausted and outmuscled if her opponent survived her power in the first round and took the fight to her. But Nunez responded to the defeat in emphatic fashion, winning her next 12 bouts from March 2015 to March 2021, accumulating several title belts en route to becoming the most accomplished women's fighter in the sport's history. Despite that dominance, Pena and her team felt the flaws exposed in the loss to Kat Zingano boded her. Pena evolved under Rick Little, owner of Sick Jitsu in Spokane, but a gruesome injury in 2014 was one of several interruptions that stalled her professional career in the following years. A 4-fight UFC winning streak through 2016 included a win over Zingano and pushed Pena into the title contender conversation, but her January 2017 loss to Valentina Shevchenko curbed any hopes for a shot against Nunes. Pena then became pregnant with her daughter later that year and would not return to the octagon until July 2019 when she defeated Nico Montano. The following year, an injury limited her to 1 fight, which was a submission loss to Germaine de Randamie. She rebounded in January 2021, submitting to Sarah McMahon via rear naked choke, then proceeded to call out Nunez for ducking her going back to 2016. Some found Pena's callouts delusional, but Pena insisted she could outlast the 2-division champion, and she proved it. When they entered the octagon in December, Pena proved willing to engage Nunez in the pocket, disregarding her opponent's trademark striking power. Pena fought a competitive first round, but found herself in compromising positions on the ground. In the second round, she took control. Pena stung Nunez with powerful jabs, which made Nunez fatigued and become reckless. Pena continued to swing and land. With less than 2 minutes left in the round, Pena mounted Nunez's back, then slid and tightened her forearm against Nunez's neck, forcing a quick tap out. The crowd at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas erupted. UFC commentator Daniel Cormier shrieked. His partner Joe Rogan called the result the biggest upset in the history of the sport. The result shocked the MMA world, and Dana White had no choice but to make the rematch. The rematch was to prove if Pena's victory over Amanda was indeed a fluke. In what was going to be her first title defense at UFC 277, oddsmakers still viewed Pena as the underdog. Despite boasting an impressive resume, Pena received minimal pre-fight support from fans and the MMA community. Unfortunately for the Venezuelan vixen, some continued to doubt her toughness. During a recent interview with Chiesa, she depicted the rematch as an opportunity to prove that her upset wasn't a fluke. "Winning the belt is something that I already expected for myself, but I'm not content with that. That's not satisfying enough to me. I want to go in there, close this chapter on this book, and solidify my legacy by defending my belt properly for the first time. And then I'll be able to breathe and say, 'All right, old girl, You did it. You are the champion. Finally, the rematch was booked and it was time for the most anticipated women's title fight in recent years. This time, Amanda had made adjustments by leaving the gym she trained at for the first fight and setting up her own gym. She had stated the lack of attention by the coaches as one of the reasons for the loss. Ahead of the rematch, Pena had never been dropped in the UFC. Her sturdy chin made up for her forward pressure style of fighting, and with a dangerous BJJ guard, it would be difficult to finish her whether on the feet or on the ground. PFL champion Kayla Harrison, who was supposed to get in a super fight with Nunez had she won the first encounter, had her takes on how the rematch would go. She said, "I think that Nunez learns from that mistake. I think it was just a fluke, to be honest. I can't see it going the same way again. I can't. Now, I don't know how she's training, I don't know her cardio, I don't know, but if I were going to bet, I'd bet on Amanda." Well, she wasn't wrong. The rematch was entirely different from the first encounter. Amanda Nunes showed up sharp and with much better striking than in the first fight. In the first 2 rounds, she dropped Pena about 5 times, although the UFC only acknowledged 3. This was the most knockdowns in a women's UFC fight, and in the final 3 rounds, Nunes battered Pena in what was a very bloody affair. Although she couldn't find the finish, the fight was scored 50-43 by one judge, meaning 2 10-8 rounds for Nunez. We already knew from the first encounter that Juliana Pena had grit and willpower that few can match. She proved her sturdiness again in surviving 5 rounds within the rematch with Amanda Nunes, most of which was spent taking a beating. Save for just a few dramatic submission attempts, there aren't many different redeeming parts for Pena on this specific bout. Although Pena didn't stop pressing forward after being knocked down several times and sustaining a nasty gash, in the end she didn't defeat Nunez once more and couldn't prove that her victory at UFC 269 in December was no fluke. There's no taking away what she completed within the first fight. However, the rematch proved that it was certainly one of many largest, most stunning upsets in UFC history, and was likely a fluke victory. After winning the rematch, Amanda Nunes herself didn't call her first loss to Pena a fluke. However, she did call it lucky, though, and that's probably more of an apt term. Seeing how that rematch played out in her unanimous decision win, it's pretty clear Nunez is the superior fighter to Pena. It's pretty hard to argue that. It's also pretty hard to argue all the reasons Nunez shared as to why she was upset in the first encounter. The critics will call them excuses, but how can you accuse Nunez of pulling fake narratives out after seeing what went down? In the first fight, she was plagued with a knee injury, the lingering effects of COVID-19, and some insecurity about her team and preparation. With a change in the team, a proper training camp, and a confident mindset, we saw exactly what happened when Nunez and Pena stepped in the octagon as the best versions of themselves. For Nunez, that's a competitor who is levels above her peers. Well, UFC welterweight Belal Muhammad had his takes on the fight. Belal Muhammad is not having any Juliana Pena slander after her loss to Amanda Nunes at UFC 277. The welterweight top contender believes there is still no clear winner from the Amanda vs. Juliana series, and only a trilogy fight could settle this rivalry. Speaking on Instagram, Belal said, "The heart and the mentality she showed, and she showed why she was the champion and how the first fight wasn't a fluke. To all the haters saying it was a fluke, look how tough she showed herself. She had moments where she almost caught Nunez in an armbar." Although Nunez would probably prefer to never have the blemish on her record that came with the loss to Pena, the result is looking more and more like a blessing in disguise for the Lioness. She knows she can't take anyone lightly going forward, and if she can put together some more dominant years on the back of regaining this title, her legacy is going to reach untouchable heights. Perhaps a trilogy fight between the pair will be a true settler of this discussion. It's likely that we'll see that third fight down the line. Thank you for watching this video. That's all for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell.